Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we're going over the news that the Georgia Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones has officially announced that he is running for the 2026 Georgia governor's race to succeed Governor Brian Kemp. Now this is obviously very big news as Burt Jones now running. He is the second Republican to join this race after Attorney General Chris Carr announced earlier this year that he would be running. Burt Jones versus Chris Carr could become a very competitive primary, and depending on if Governor Kemp or President Trump decide to make an endorsement, that could have a very important role in this primary. So, with Burt Jones' entry into the race, as I mentioned, with Carr and Jones both now running in this race, these are the only two big Republicans in this race at this time. There has been potential interest from U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has expressed interest in running in this race, but it remains to be seen if she ultimately decides to run or not. It is worth noting that when Marjorie Taylor Greene was still considering a run for the U.S. Senate, the Republican primary polls showed her with a high number of support. However, in the governor race, there's not been any polls so far showing what Marjorie Taylor Greene starts off at. But with just Burt Jones and Chris Carr in the race, only one poll from back in 2023 showed Burt Jones with a 9% lead over Chris Carr, with 73% undecided. So essentially on that front, there's really not too much to go off of on that side of things in terms of who's favored. But with the Lieutenant Governor of Georgia and the Attorney General of Georgia in this race, this should be a very competitive primary, and one of the top Republicans in the state of Georgia will become the Republican nominee. On the Democratic side of things, Democrats, it's still very wide open. 4 Democrats are currently running, including the former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms. All eyes are on Stacey Abrams, the Democratic nominee for governor in 2018 and 2022. If she were to run, odds are pretty good she would have the best chance at becoming the Democratic nominee. Recently, Jeff Duncan, the former Republican lieutenant governor, has also expressed interest in potentially running for governor of Georgia as a Democrat, as well as U.S. Representative Lucy McBath. All 3 of them have expressed interest in potentially running. The hypothetical polling for that one, from that same 2023 poll, showed Stacey Abrams at 52%. All other candidates added up to about 34% on that one. This is expected to be one of the most marquee governor's races in the country in 2026. Cook Politico, Inside Elections, and Race to the White House, 3 very reliable, reputable prediction websites, have the race listed as a toss-up. Sabla Crystal Ball, another very reputable prediction website, has it listed as lean Republican. That's where things stand on that front. As for how this race has looked, well, back in 2022, Governor Brian Kemp won re-election against Stacey Abrams by 7.5% in a very competitive election that Kemp ended up winning by a pretty decent margin, a likely Republican margin. This is more what we're accustomed to see out of Georgia in the early 2000s and early 2010s, before Georgia became such a very close competitive toss-up state. Back in 2018, however, we saw what Georgia's more likely to be like in 2026, where Kemp defeated Abrams by 1.4% in a very, very close election against Abrams. Kemp getting about 1,980,000 votes or so. Abrams getting about 1,920,000 votes. So very, very close in this election as well. The state of Georgia, the presidential level, has also gotten very close in recent years. President Trump defeated Kamala Harris in 2024 in Georgia by only 2.2%. Very, very close victory there. 2020, Joe Biden narrowly flipped the state against Donald Trump by 0.24%. This was the first time Georgia went for a Democrat. You have to go back to 1992 when it went for Bill Clinton by 0.59%. This was the first time Georgia went Democrat since 1992. 2016, Trump won it by 5.1%, so the trend here has been going towards the Democratic side in recent years. The Senate level, it's been even more so. 2 Democratic senators now represent Georgia, Raphael Warnock, who won by 2.8% in 2022, and then in 2020, Jon Ossoff won by 1.2% against the Republican David Perdue. So now it's going to have to wait and see how this goes in 2026, as both Ossoff and the governor's race are on the ballot as well. But I fully expect this is going to be a very close race going into 2026. Now, when you're looking at Georgia, there's a lot of population centers in Georgia. The biggest one is Atlanta with Fulton County. This is the largest Democratic population center, but there are also its surrounding suburbs as well. These have grown more for the Democrats in recent years, and is largely the main reason that Georgia has become very competitive in recent elections. For instance, Cobb County voted for Harris 57-42. Douglas 65-34 for Harris over Trump. Fayette and Clayton 84-15 to Cobb 82-17. Gwinnett 58-41. I'm going to show you as well as a shift on the other website as well, but I just want to show you The shift from 2020, the New York Times map, shows that in these surrounding areas, Henry moved 9.2% towards the Democrats. Spalding did as well. Fayette moved 3.6%. We saw Douglas with 6.3% shift, Paulding 4.9%. Cobb County moved just a little bit, 0.6% towards Harris from 2020 to 2024. Fulton County did move 1.5% towards Trump, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not very too significant, especially when you can look at other counties like Rockdale, which moved more towards the Democrats, and Newton, Walton, and Borough. Forsyth, Cherokee moved a little bit as well. So as you can see, pretty much everywhere in Georgia moved towards the Republicans, towards President Trump. But the areas surrounding Atlanta, these were the main areas in the state to watch for. They all did continue to trend towards the Democratic side. That's why when you talk about 2026 and 2028, Democrats, despite losing the state in 2024, still have a lot of optimism in the state of Georgia due to the fact that the surrounding Atlanta area, despite Fulton County shifting towards the Republicans, all the surrounding counties pretty much shifted towards the Democrats. So Georgia's a very interesting state to watch for. It's kind of a mix of like a southern Republican state in these areas and then a big northern state in terms of the population of Atlanta and its surrounding suburbs. A very interesting state to watch for going forward. As for my most recent prediction, I currently have the state of Georgia at the governor's level going Republican in the lean Republican ranking. This would be putting the state of Georgia around a 1 to 5% victory. I don't think it's going to be any larger than that. I do have the Republicans winning right now, and I think in large part due to the fact that Georgia, with Governor Brian Kemp, who would probably be leaving office with pretty high approval ratings, the people of Georgia seem to be liking the job that Kemp is doing, and I think a very narrow election will happen where the Republicans narrowly win on that one. What's interesting is on that same ballot, I actually do have the Senate race for Georgia actually going lean Democratic, so I think it will be a split ticket, like we saw a little bit in 2024, where the Democrats win the Senate race, but the Republicans win the governor's race in 2026. On that front. And I said I wanted to show you just what the shift ended up looking like from 2020 to 2024. Oh, that's Florida. Sorry, let me go to Georgia. You can see right here, this is Fulton County, this is Atlanta, shifted 1.6% towards Trump, but DeKalb also shifted 2.6 towards Trump, Clayton 1.7, Gwinnett 1.7, Forsyth moved towards Harris 0.8, Cherokee 0.21, Cobb 0.56, Douglas shifted 6% towards Harris, Colorado 1.7, Fayette 3.6, Spalding 4.2, Henry 9.2, Rockdale 6.7, Newton and Walton 4 and 3 points, respectively. So Georgia's very interesting. 2026 should be a very important indicator of what to watch for. If the Republicans are able to win the governor's and Senate race, that could be a sign that the Republicans are putting up another strong fight in Georgia and that it's going to remain a very close state. If the Democrats do well enough to win the Senate and governor's race in Georgia in 2026, that could be a sign going to 2028 there has real potential the Democrats could win 2028, the state of Georgia, and keep it in their direction for future elections, both for governor, president, and Senate going forward. So a lot at stake in Georgia for 2026. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did. Also, make sure to leave a comment below telling me any thoughts you have or suggestions and such. Also, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you get notified when I post more videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you in a future video.